This is Cashology by FMBO, a podcast devoted to the art and science of managing your money. It's like school, but your only homework is living your best financial life. Class is now in session. It's never too soon to build good habits around money. And while your 20s may seem like the time to have fun and way too early to get serious about things like retirement, the habits you develop now can have long-lasting impact on your quality of life and financial freedom. We're going to take a look at 4 healthy financial habits to start practicing now: controlling spending, saving regularly, building credit, and saving for retirement. Welcome, and thanks for listening to the Cashology podcast, hosted by your guide on the path to financial savvy, me, Julie Wyans. Today we are joined by Megan Aldinger, branch manager. Hi, Megan.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
We are elated to have you. And I know as branch manager, you have a lot of experience talking with customers and helping them on their path to financial success. So tell us more about that.
Yeah, I have been a branch manager for about 4 years now. And I started at First National about 12 and a half years ago. I've had every job in the branch. I started as a teller. I've been a universal banker, a personal banker, a lead teller, an assistant branch manager, and now branch manager. So I've gotten to interact with customers in every aspect in the branch and help them, learn about their financial well-being.
That's excellent. Well, before we dive into managing your money in your 20s, let's get some disclosures out of the way.
Thanks, Julie. We'd like to inform our contestants and studio audience the rules of today's game. Let's see what they've won. Investment products are not FDIC insured, not a deposit or other obligation of the bank, not insured by any federal government agency, not guaranteed by the bank, may lose value. This podcast should not be copied or reproduced without permission. Information and statements within this podcast are subject to change without notice. The Cashology podcast is for informational purposes only and is not intended to constitute investment advice or recommendations. First National Bank of Omaha does not make any representation or warranty as to the accuracy or completeness of any information or statements within this podcast. When making decisions about your financial situation, consult a financial professional for advice. Podcasts are not regularly updated, and information may become outdated. Deposit products are offered by First National Bank of Omaha, member FDIC, equal housing lender. The Cashology Podcast, copyright 2021, First National Bank of Omaha. Back to you, Julie.
Our 20s are a tumultuous time. And what kind of habits can we start building in our 20s that will help us for success in the future financially? That's why Megan and I are here to talk about this topic today. Megan, let's start off with the first habit that I mentioned in our introduction. How can we control spending, and what does that even mean?
Well, it's the foundation for our financial health. They have a rule that's called the 50-20-30 rule, and we're talking about your income after tax. So you want to budget 50% on necessities. This would be groceries, rent, car, things like that. And then you want to budget 20% for your savings and 30% for your wants. So things that you don't necessarily need, but you think you have to have. A great way to do this is to track your expenses with this formula. So you can set up an easy Excel spreadsheet and you can track what you're spending your money on. And you can do this every month for a couple of months. And then you can kind of see where is your money going and adjust it as necessary to kind of hit that 50-20-30 rule. And you can also check to see, are you spending too much on your wants and you need more for your savings? One bad habit can cost you, especially over time. And you also want to be very careful with your impulse buys. You always want to keep up with the Joneses, but sometimes it may not be the right time to do that.
Megan, you mentioned the 50-20-30 budgeting rule, and we actually have an old episode on that. If anyone who's listening is interested in learning more and the details about what that budgeting tool is like. You brought up a really good point, though. We almost need to come and face the facts of our spending. I think our 20s are a time of growth, and both in a personal development, professional development type of way, but also in a way of growing into a fishbowl. You're finally getting a salary. You're getting paid more than you likely ever have been, and you hopefully will continue to do that. But I always fear this concept of growing into my fishbowl and spending more as I make more, instead of truly understanding what my necessities are and trying to put more into savings versus spending more, if that makes sense.
It does. I think that's a hard one for everybody to get past, because when you're in your 20s, you don't really understand building for the future quite yet. And so you see that big paycheck and you think, I got $700 in this paycheck. What can I go buy for $700? Instead of thinking of the 50-20-30 rule, where you should only be spending 30% of that and putting the rest towards your necessities and your savings, so that in the future you have that money to help you continue to grow.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't even know what I'm going to be having for dinner tonight, let alone what I'm going to be like at 59 and a half when I take money out of my Roth IRA, right? And it's really difficult. It's a difficult situation to really think on, but it's absolutely a necessity. So let's talk about that piece, savings. That's the second habit we want to dive into today. How do we make savings a habit in our 20s?
I think the easiest way is when you set up direct deposit and you just automatically pick, $20, $25, and you automatically throw it into your savings account. So you don't even have to think about it, and it's automatically done for you, and you're just putting a little bit in each month to kind of help you get started. You can also do that for your retirement account. So you can put, 20, 25 every paycheck into your savings, and you can also do that for your retirement. There are three ways to think about savings. One, you want to set aside money for an emergency. This can be anything. Your car breaks down, you have an unexpected medical bill, any sort of thing that doesn't normally come up. You want to have something set aside to help you with that, so it's not a big stress when it comes up. Another rule of thumb is to have 6 months of living expenses saved up. That can also help with your emergency fund. The second part is to set aside money for a goal. This could be going on a vacation or buying your first home. It takes a lot of time to build up that money for your down payment. So starting early and doing it often can help with that. And again, the third thing is setting aside money for your retirement. So if your employer has a 401k set up, you can automatically put your money into there through the direct deposit, and you don't have to think about it every paycheck as well.
You brought up emergency fund, and that's actually another topic we have another Cashology episode on. For anyone interested in learning more about why it's important to have some money saved away for emergencies. But absolutely, Megan, those are really great points, that saving regularly, no matter what the number of dollars is, will make an impact in the long run. And understanding how much you're saving too and writing that down in that Excel sheet is important. One habit that I look at my friends, and I know that it's such an elusive and hard to grasp topic, is building credit. I mean, wow, talk about confusing. But in your 20s, this is a kind of a make it or break it time for building credit, especially when you see some enticing travel credit card offers that you absolutely want to jump on, and you might not be responsible with it or understand what you're getting into. So tell us more about building credit.
Building credit, I think, is the hardest thing for people to understand, because there's so many different things that can affect your credit score. Most people in their early 20s have, barely have a fair to average credit score. You're just starting out. You probably don't have any credit. So what do you do to build your credit? One of the biggest ways to do that is to open a secured card. This will help you to start to build your credit, but this is also another excellent way that if you've messed up your credit a little bit, it can help rebuild your credit score as well. A good credit score is going to make it easier to get loans and at a lower interest rate. So it's going to save you money over the long haul. Things like car loans, home loans, credit cards. You don't think of those, again, when you're in your 20s, but if you ruin that credit early on, when you go to buy these things, it's going to make it more difficult for you. Landlords also look and use credit checks when you want to rent. So if you are going to get an apartment, you want to make sure that you have, some sort of credit built so that you can rent that apartment on your own. The biggest thing I can say is to spend within your means. So again, like we talked about earlier, not spending more than you have or spending things that you shouldn't be spending your money on. And paying your bills on time is a huge thing for your credit score. So if you can set up automatic payments, that will help make sure that you're not late and you don't get any late fees, but also that you don't ruin your credit score by having any late fees on there.
You brought up a really good point in that section about what I consider the theme of stability. You're trying to build stability with your credit in your 20s and trying to show potential lenders in the future that you were able to make payments on time, that to a landlord, that's very important, right? For rent, to potential credit card issuer, if you want a new credit card, or an auto loan lender. All very important things that absolutely, Megan. I mean, so many people do mismanage the amount of credit they have. It's completely normal. And there's definitely a way out of it, a way to build your credit if you have made mistakes in the past. Everyone makes mistakes, I think, is what we both want to impart on our listeners, right?
Correct. Yes.
So let's talk a little bit more on our final habit, which we struggle a bit throughout this episode, which is saving for retirement. Honestly, as someone who's in their 20s right now, I think about retirement a bit, but it seems so foreign and so far off that it is hard for me to understand like what my lifestyle would be like, right? So what do you suggest for someone like me?
I think the biggest thing is to start as early as you can, because when you start early, it's going to build, your money's going to build wealth and grow over time. So the earlier you start, the more money that you're going to grow and build into your like 401k or your retirement plan. Again, it's just so hard to wrap your mind around thinking about you at 65 or 70 and not working. And what are you going to want to do with your life? Are you going to want to travel or different things like that? What sort of money do you need put away to keep you stable during that time? A big thing that you can do is participate in your employer's retirement plan. So if you start, again, set up with direct deposit, so it's automatically going in there and you don't really have to think about it, and you can just continue to build your wealth. For example, if you save $100 a month for 5 years when you start at 20 and you assume a 7% annual rate of return, by the age of 67, you would have $118,000 built up. And that is only after you contributed $6,000. So that is a huge amount of money by just putting $100 down a month for when you're 20. If you wait until you're older, your return is usually not going to be as high. So you're going to have to put in more money to get that $118,000. So again, contributing every paycheck is huge to getting your wealth built.
Absolutely. I mean, wealth is such an odd term as well. A lot of people think wealth is unattainable, but in reality, it is putting your money in investments where it will grow and remain untouched. And there are a lot of scenarios like you just outlined that you can go down. For example, your employer's 401k, a Roth IRA, a regular IRA. There are plenty of investment firms you could work with in order to build wealth and grow the money that you have for a relatively little contribution today, but will pay off tomorrow. So Megan, tell me, is there anything else that you want to share with anyone in their 20s about financial health and any advice that you have for them?
I think the biggest thing is education. You have to educate yourself on what sort of financing you're doing. Whether it's a credit card or a loan, you need to understand exactly how it works. And there's no class, in high school or college that really teaches you about financial, tools and things. So this is where you have to go and you either, you ask your parents or you can go to the bank and ask questions. And sometimes I think it's intimidating to walk into a bank and say, I don't know how this credit card works. Can you explain it to me? But I will tell you, I think one of the most rewarding parts of my job is when somebody comes in and asks me a question like this and I'm able to sit with them and explain it to them and kind of watch that light bulb go off in their head to know that they actually understand it, and then watch them walk out and think, okay, they're going to start building their credit right now so that hopefully in the future they're able to buy that house that they want. And it's just, you have to start as early as you can and, not dig that hole for yourself.
That's amazing, Megan. I'm sure it's very rewarding and I'm sure your customers really appreciate all the time that you've spent with them. Well, thank you so much about helping us manage our money in our 20s, Megan.
Thank you so much for having me, Julie. It was a wonderful experience.
Go to fmbo.com or visit a branch for more information on ways to build your financial health. Thank you everyone for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and keep an eye out for more Cashology episodes coming your way soon.